It's nice to hear your voice.
It's nice. It was nice to see your face, even if it was just a brief glimpse before I threw a tea towel over you.
Do you know a funny thing? A certain friend of mine said, my, Lee has an extraordinary radio voice. And all it's done to me is be very self-conscious about how I sound.
Oh, no. You sound awesome.
We're humans, I think all humans are a little bit like this. So just ridiculous.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if it's any consolation, I spend most of the time covering you up on our FaceTimes so that I don't have to look at your amazing head of hair. And that's one thing. And also, so I don't have to see how, sculpted from marble your body is.
It's true, you do have a fantastic head of hair for radio, don't you?
I also have a fantastic six-pack for radio. This is a podcast in which two friends have serious conversations about silly things and silly conversations about serious things.
I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller.
Welcome to Midlifing.
And in a way, that's sort of, that's what I was thinking about for today's chat. So I bought a new jacket. It's made ethically. The company's called Painter, Paynter. We had a conversation a good few years ago where you said that you were struggling to work out how to be a valued member of society that contributes to an economy when you just don't want to buy stuff anymore.
Did I really say that?
Yeah, you totally did. And I said,
sounds so obnoxious.
No, it doesn't. It does. I didn't think it was obnoxious at the time. I thought it was really interesting because what you did was you said, I'm going to invest in services. Which I thought was a really nice strategy, that you're still, contributing to the economy. But
which is actually a way of just saying, I'm just going to buy more massages.
Well, yeah.
That was actually from a Richard Sennett book, this Australian economist, and he was just saying the GDP as a measure of economic growth or success, and just saying actually what money is spent on has to be considered as opposed to that money is spent, right? GDP is basically a crude, if ever there were a crude measure of anything. His perspective is when you're dealing with something as dramatic as climate change, then we need to be thinking about what money is spent on.
Yeah.
And so, and that was his one of his thoughts. So me sounding a bit obnoxious all those years ago was effectively just parroting Richard Sennett. I think I've got the name right.
I don't think it's obnoxious, and I don't think it's parroting. I think, we have to adopt different models. And I, maybe 2 years ago, I decided to not buy anything new, and then realised that that's just not who I am. So, because I just
you
really
like new stuff.
I like new
clothes,
stuff.
Particularly clothes. Do you think?
Yeah, but I've tried really hard not to, for a long time, I've tried really hard not to do the kind of things from the high street. So I was thinking about how I contribute to an economy, a bit like you were thinking about it, except you went for services. And I found this company that do this kind of irregular, I think it's twice a year they produce a jacket.
Say the name again.
Painter, Paynter. Great company. So this jacket was delivered, and I was wearing it this morning, and I caught myself in a reflective surface. I just caught myself in a kind of a full-length window.
Yeah, shop window.
Shop window, exactly that. And I was really taken aback by the person who was looking out of the window at me. Because it's not who I expected to be by this point in my life. I have to be very clear. This was not a disappointment. I was not going, oh my God. This wasn't a self-image thing in the sense that I felt unhappy with what I could see. It was just that the creature that looked at me is not the creature that I think I look out of.
Oh, I love that.
I had a moment of thinking about, have you turned out the way you thought you were going to turn out?
It's funny, I've actually been noticing that a lot lately because most of the video chat software I'm compelled to use for different circumstances does not enable you to turn off your own image. So I think I've looked at myself more since, March of 2020 than I've ever done before. And I find it, and so I've actually gone to a whole lot of trouble to have little pieces of cardboard that I put over my own image. Not because I have some kind of problem with seeing myself, but just that it's just so distracting in a conversation to keep, you can see people's eyes flicking towards their own image because, we are, let's face it, fascinated with ourselves. I mean, you and I, could there be any better example of that than you and I thinking, let's have conversations, let's record them, let's publish them online. I mean, there's nothing that says...
No, yeah, exactly. Like, what should we talk about? Us? Yeah, that seems like a topic.
Yes, everyone will enjoy listening to that. Yeah, so, but, it's such an interesting question because you're tapping into or you're touching, because, as you know, I'm a dancer or have been a dancer, and dance training is bizarrely... certain aspects of it are so much looking at yourself in a mirror, and not piddly mirrors. They're big, 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 big mirrors. You can't avoid yourself. And there are particular kinds of training, and certainly ballet is probably the most, maybe, I don't know, actually. I don't know. I think hip-hop also is very focused on looking at yourself in a mirror in a way. And so there's the problems of dysmorphia, which is a sort of slightly roundabout way of saying I think a disconnect between how I see my face and then how I see the rest of my body. And there are funny little moments where, those, I don't even know what you call them, but around your knees where there's a there's a particular muscle which I do know the name of, which is vastus medialis oblique, which is that kind of muscle that runs around and it sort of hangs over the inside of your leg, just above your knee. And you see it when cyclists have got big VMOs, for example. And that particular muscle on my leg the skin has started to sag in such a particular way. Like it's really, and I really would go, I see why people would want to get a little nip and tucks.
Isn't it interesting that it's your knee that made you become aware of that rather than your face? And I don't mean that in a kind of like, oh, funny Simon kind of a way, but I'm genuinely curious. Is that because you just said that there's kind of a slight disconnect between your face and your body? Is there a sense that you are more invested in the body than the face? Or I don't mean invested in the sense of like, I mean as in your sense of self comes from that more than from the other.
Oh, I just don't like admitting this. I really don't like admitting this, which I think I have an enormous amount invested in the idea that I'm fit. It's really, and the flip side, the face side, is that the other side? No, the above the neck part is more because you just can't. It's so impossible to avoid the sense that your face is changing. Doesn't matter how physically active you are, or it just reminded me. I get these some of the ads that get served to me on YouTube. It seems to be quite a common one for me. I'm quite curious if you get the same ad where it looks like some incredibly hard piece of rubber that a man holds.
Oh, that you chew in your face. That you chew.
Do you get that ad?
I've had it a couple of times and just gone, what about my profile has made you think that I care about my neck? I've got a massive beard. I haven't seen my neck for about 6 years. I'm not worried about anyone else seeing it.
But it's his jaw, that sort of Tom Cruise like gritting your teeth jaw, and as that somehow that's appealing. And so I've never had any of that kind of. But I this investment thing. I mean, it worries me. Like it worries me not because it just worries me because I think it's over investment in an idea of what a body should or can do, and it is. Let's face it, a losing battle.
Yes.
Isn't
absolutely. It is a losing battle. But and I think that's sort of why I was so caught by myself today just kind of catching that glimpse of myself in a window, it became less of a glimpse and more of an extended stare, because I was really.
How long did you spend there?
I'm still outside. I'm still looking in the window. Yeah, it was in. It was a glance that maybe lingered, and just being struck by. I just didn't expect to turn out like this. It was a kind of in my head, I always thought that I'd be smaller, as in shorter, more like Spider-Man, sort of like little and compact. And I guess that's what I've wanted to be. Yeah. And I'm just this like 6'2", fairly slab-like creature.
Would you say slab?
Yeah, I'm a big slab of
meat.
Meat. I take up a lot of space in the world, and I kind of know I take up a lot of space on one level, in the sense that I'm always knocking things over. But I don't notice what I look like. And I just saw this sort of quite, I guess, formidable looking thing that if it walked across the road at me, I'd be quite frightened of it.
Really?
But I'm also really aware that that's not a reflection of its interior landscape, or frankly of its capabilities. So yeah, and
I love that you're talking about yourself in the third person there as well. Its interior landscape, its capabilities. I love that.
But it's how I felt about it, and it is still it. It's still the thing that was in the window. It's not me, because it didn't look like me.
But wait. So, at what point did you used to think, or do you still think of yourself as being someone who was going to be short, or someone like? Yeah, it seems to me like you're being a little slow catching up with the truth, catching up with the facts.
I am slow, but that's what I mean about. I think have you turned out the way you thought you were going to turn out? Because I haven't turned out, and I know it's a process of becoming, but I don't know when this pattern of what I thought I would look like was sort of inscribed.
Set, yeah.
Yeah, but it's still, even it's so deeply held. It still surprises me when I look like I look, and I go, "Oh, that's bigger."
It is very interesting, isn't it? Because I was always the smallest kid. I was the runt of the litter, as it were, in any class I was at, even at high school, and I was one of the very last to reach puberty, in the sense of my voice breaking.
Yeah,
and that self-image of being small stayed with me, and so I went my undergraduate degree was in physical education, and there were a lot of strapping people in that class, lots of people who became All Blacks in New Zealand, all that kind of thing, right? And so it stayed with me. But the funniest thing happened was when I went to dance school, dance training, I overnight became huge. And it took ages for me to recognize that I was the big person in the class, and not, and it was so strange, because we had to do pas de deux, which I'm sure you'd be fascinated, is ballet partner training, right? And I was always partnered with the biggest women in the class. But it was so weird, because I kept on going, why are they giving me that person?
Oh, because you, in your head, you were like, but I'm quite little.
I'm the little guy.
I'm the little guy.
I'm the little guy. But I was actually, in fact, the big guy. I think that's still that transformation overnight was so shocking and so hilarious at the same time.
The transformation was somebody else's transformation, though. You didn't change, just your context.
Totally. And also, however everyone else in the room saw me.
That sense of like that our bodies and their size and their capabilities is contextual rather than fixed.
I just don't think we are very often in circumstances where the context changes so drastically. Anyway, I kind of interrupted you. You were just talking about that sense of the thing that stuck. And, I mean, are there other things? Well, yeah, are there other things that you think have stuck with you that you suddenly realise aren't necessarily accurate?
So I was a fat kid. Well, I wasn't. I guess I was chubby.
Did you get called names, chubby?
Yeah. I was short, and I was chubby. But I mean, I definitely wasn't by today's standards. I probably would look exceedingly normal. But for the 1980s, I was a chubby kid.
Also, I love exceedingly normal. Fabulous. Thank you.
I might have to cut that out so I don't just basically... podcast says kids are fat. That'll be... As if the Daily Mail are listening.
I think we should cut to an ad break just right now. Have you thought about Squarespace? Or maybe we could get Gwyneth Paltrow to sponsor us somehow.
It's so funny you should say Gwyneth Paltrow, because actually Gwyneth Paltrow came as a fully formed memory to me almost as a result of seeing myself in the window.
Wait.
Can you remember? Can you remember when we went to the River Cottage for lunch?
River Cafe.
River Cafe. I always get them confused.
I just love that. Just these little signs of the kinds of people we are and our class. So like, just in case you weren't sure, dear listeners.
Also, though, I would like to point out that we went for lunch, which tells you that we're also cheap.
It was snowing.
It was snowing. I remember that very well. And it was just the two of us. We hadn't gone with partners.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was in London doing some yoga training, I think.
Probably.
Yeah, we were. So when we went to, I've already forgotten its name, River Cafe. Cafe?
I think that's the one. It's the one that Jamie Oliver used to work at.
That's right.
It was when he was sort of discovered, when they were filming in River Cafe, and there was this, he was this bolshy young...
Oh, is that how that happened?
Yeah, and they went, wow, this guy is, as they say in the business, great TV.
Yeah, and then he became the naked chef.
He did.
Well, we went for lunch, and coincidentally, at the table next to us, Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin, because they were still married at the time, with their two children, were seated.
Did they come? It's funny, I remember them coming in.
They did come in.
Because I was facing... Yes, and I was facing there's a sort of a counter where you're watching the chefs do their work, and you were facing out towards the river. And
That's
so
right.
in the entire, my memory of this is that the entire kind of place changed, like the vibe in the place changed. Everyone behind the counter, all the employees stopped and looked. It was a very odd, and that's when, and of course, anyway, you tell. That's my memory of it anyway.
That is exactly that's exactly my memory of it as well. And that I had the added sort of layer that I remember being furious, like absolutely furious that Chris Martin would come and ruin my day, because this was in the period of my life where I was being stopped quite regularly and asked for my autograph, because people were mistaking me for Chris Martin.
Oh,
which is
no.
Swear to God.
Really?
Swear to God, on at least 5 different occasions, people asked for my autograph. Not like kind of went, oh, are you? And then realised as soon as they started a conversation that I wasn't.
But you sing so much better than he does.
It's true, I do. And my songwriting ability is second to none. I think, quite frankly, he's living my life. I don't really think that. I think what was happening was we were both doing a lot of Ashtanga at the time, as in him and me. Not together. Although occasionally in the same studio.
Really?
Yeah.
This is all just new. This is all new.
So when he came in, I remember being quite like, oh, fucking hell, I can't get away from this Chris Martin. Because it's like, if he's not spoiling my dinner... he's interrupting a trip to the loo at a service station, which was my favourite. A man jumped out and stopped me getting into the toilet going, oh my God, I can't believe you're here. I was like, what? And it came so out of left field. Oh my God, I can't believe you're here. I was just like, here for a wee? I mean, I don't understand what you don't understand, because it's like, it's a service station. What do you think I'm doing? It's like, no, but you're at a service station. It's like, yeah. Where would you expect me to stop to urinate? So, oh my God, I really love your last album. And that's when the penny drops went, I'm sorry, I'm not Chris Martin. He went, oh no, come on, seriously, mate, seriously. I was like, no, I'm not Chris Martin. He was like, you don't have to be like that. I was like, no, I'm not Chris Martin.
I never knew this. I mean, it all makes sense now, because every time I've seen you, I've had flashes of Gwyneth and Chris. I mean, it's just true. It's true. And Gloop, is it Gloop?
Goop, I think you were right first time.
Yeah.
So she came back into my memory, and that whole exchange popped up this morning, because I I saw myself. Oh, that was the thing. You'd gone somewhere and I was waiting for you and I was standing. You know, they had like a bar area by the...
Yeah, by the entrance.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And I was leaning against the bar and there was a mirror behind the bar. So I was looking at myself and the door to the toilet was next to that mirrored area. Right. And he came out of the loo as I was looking at myself in the mirror. So I had this beautiful moment of side by side. And I could see him and I could see me. I just went, nah, nah, can't see it.
I mean, we're here talking about midlife, really, aren't we?
Yeah.
And do you think there's something about that awareness that's different now than it might have been 20 years ago? Like, you understand the question. You understand what I mean, right?
I do understand the question. I think the thing that's different is that I'm much more forgiving of the thing that I saw.
Oh.
Because what I saw was just not at all what's in my head, but what I saw was very pleasing. And I don't mean that in a vainglorious kind of a way, but I just meant it was a shape that was sort of reassuring. It looked capable. It looked like it could do things in the world. And I just thought, oh, that's nice. That's a nice thing to look like. So it was kind of that, and it was that level of, I probably, if I'm being listened to by any psychologist, they'll probably say that I'm in a deeply dissociative state and I should go and get medicated.
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking, then I was thinking, actually, what we're really talking about is this extraordinary state of being human, which is, in a way, dealing with the differences or the discrepancies between how we are and how we see ourselves, and perhaps even how others see us. That there's always that discrepancy. There's always that difference. And, you might say that's delusion. I've always been staggered to imagine the people I was friends with as a teenager and what's happened in their lives and the kinds of things which have where you end up kind of off the rails, you might say, and I don't mean socially, but just where there's something's gone wrong and you're having to deal with that. As I say, that discrepancy between your image of yourself, I don't mean physical self, but psychological self, and the reality.
Is that something that we give to ourselves? Oh, this has gone wrong. Or is that other thing that you just said a moment ago about people's perception of you?
Oh, I don't know. And also, I also want to be careful because this is way out of my expertise. And I have a feeling that unless we have the skills, and unless we're taught the skills, maybe to be with ourselves, to, let's say, diminish the quantity of judgments or the quality of judgment of ourselves, unless we can draw in and build on that ability to do that, to be with ourselves in that way, it's a very tough life to live.
Yeah. What strategies did you employ? What training have you done to make yourself feel more able to do that?
I think I'm totally shit at it. I'm just enjoying the image of you just catching a glimpse of yourself in a shop window.
Oh,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful to see, I know I'm not that person. I don't look that way.
Yeah. I don't know why I think I look like Spider-Man, and it's such a strange physicality to have like thought in my head.
You mean if Chris Martin was Spider-Man?
He's too tall, but yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's the shoulders.
The great thing about these shoulders is jackets just hang off them.
What was it? Tawny? No, Pawny? No.
Tawny or Pawnee? What? Do you mean the jacket company?
Yeah.
Painter. I quite like the idea of a Pawnee jacket. It's just... Do you like my jacket? Do you like my jacket of massive dicks? Yeah, I love it.
That's not fair. I had Pawney in my head. Your Darth Vader's better than my Darth Vader.
Luke, come to the dark side. I am your father.
Oh my goodness.
That was dreadful. I'm so sorry.
I didn't think it was dreadful at all.
Can I do my best? Can I do my best
Yeah,
joke
please,
ever? It's really shit, and I can never get that. I'm so entertained by it that I think I have to say it.
No pressure now.
Oh shit!
Feel your vocal cords tightening.
I'm feeling everything tightening because I can't even remember. All I can now remember is the really twatty academic version of it.
What?
Okay, what's the definition of a Deridian Christmas? Absence of presents.
What's that got to do with James Earl Jones?
Because there's a joke that goes, Luke, I know what you're getting for Christmas. I felt your presence. It's just such a shit joke, and I can't do.
Definitely can't do it while you're laughing.
I can't do it while I'm laughing, but yeah. I felt. I'm starting to sound more like that fella Bane from Batman. Oh, yes, Batman. Whoa, whoa. Which is not how he sounds at all.
He sounds far less intelligible, frankly.